Okay, and on This Week in Pharmacy, I have a returning guest. I'm excited about this guy. We always talk about non-traditional pathways for pharmacists. And, I think of digital therapeutics. I think of clinical trials. I think of people that are digging really deep into dementia, specifically with seniors. But have you ever thought of a comedian? A comedian that was a pharmacist or still is a pharmacist, who's practicing as a pharmacist, who's growing their career in comedy and what that means. And there's a handful of comedic pharmacists out there. I can probably count 6 or 7 that are out there. But this guy's special to us because he was on. We had a twerks called From Punchlines to Prescriptions, and this was back in 2023. And it was great to have Dr. Cory Jenks on twerks, and we are inviting him back. Welcome back to the show, Cory. It's so good to see you again.
I'm back, baby, and it's good to be back in 2024.
In 2024.
That is the timestamp we are putting on this episode. In case you are listening to this in 2028, you will know what life is like in 2024. And I'll tell you, in July of 24 in Tucson, Arizona, it is hot like this show, like our topics.
We have to talk about your book because I am a dad, so I've pre-registered for this book. But I'm excited about this. It's called I Guess I'm a Dad Now. And you really put a lot of heart into this book. Tell our listeners about what is I Guess I'm a Dad Now.
So I Guess I'm a Dad Now, and the subtitle is A Humorous Handbook for Newish Dads Who Don't Want to Suck. So I would say the heart of this came from one of my pharmacy career transitions when I left my full-time job in 2022 and went part-time to spend more time writing, doing comedy, and I guess also spending time with my kids. So I was at the park with my kids on a Thursday, which would never have happened before. And I kind of looked around and I thought, wow, a lot of there were some dads there, moms, but I noticed the dads are in their phones, not paying attention to their kids. And I thought, this is not optimal for children, for kids. And I thought of a joke of how, my first joke was, it's insane that you'd rather be like doing your fantasy football score or commenting on some political meme rather than watching your kids. So of course I get my phone out and put a note on my phone. So in the book I say, if you ignore this advice, I will ignore my kids for nothing. But that sort of set me on a path of observations of like humorous things that I've noticed about being a newish dad, because my kids are all 6 and under. And as I wrote this book, they were all 5 and under. And as I started this book, I only had 2 and now I have 3. So a lot happened between the start and the end of this book. But it really became a thing of like, man, I wish I had known this. I wish I had known that. Or I wish someone had told me this. And after a while, I had enough ideas and jokes to think, oh, I think I have another book in me. I wrote my first book in 2022, Permission to Care. And I thought, I think I have a book here. And so in the spring of 2023, I was doing quite a bit of travel for speaking engagements. And whenever I get on a plane, I try to make the time useful. So I wrote this thing out before my 3rd kid came along. So unfortunately, my little girl doesn't have a lot of press in the book, but it really, as someone who's read some parenting books, they can be pretty dry, pretty depressing. And I know dudes aren't going to want to read something that is like boring. So I try to make something fun, funny, applicable that you can go back to, dog-ear the pages, and try to suck less, because there's a lot of dad content I found out on the internet about being like this optimal leader of your family, which is good. But some days, man, you get like 3 hours of sleep, your kids are screaming. The best you can do is hope to not suck. So that's what I'm trying to do, is just try to get dads to not suck so much.
Well, as a dad of 4 daughters myself, I have definitely sucked at being a dad once in a while, but showing up, I think, is the number one. But that's not good enough, especially this day and age with what our kids are going through. And my dad, when I was young, did not have social media to battle, to which we do today, and information just becomes wildfire, and it is what it is. But it's so fun to see a pharmacist who has put a stake in the ground in knowing that you had a passion to do something, in this case, comedy, that it's actually becoming something that you can build a career around and have relevance in the pharmacological tie-in to actually creating comedy around that. How much of your pharmacy side are you pulling in? A shout out to Dr. Marie Shaw, who does that. He does some stand-up as well. And
yeah,
he's so funny, and he even has like a little YouTube channel that he uses colorful examples of pharmacy into comedy. But how much of the world of pharmacy do you tie into your comedy?
Well, I would say that a lot of my comedy is improvised. So my background is improv comedy. So if you've ever seen Whose Line Is It Anyway, it's the stuff where everything's made up, the points don't matter, etc. I've in the last few months, I've actually gotten into doing a little bit more stand up. Although the shows we have here in Tucson, I do a show that's called The Switch, and it's all improvised stand up. You get on stage and people text in like literally just words, and you have to come up with jokes on the spot with those words, which like I when people find out I'm a pharmacist, they start like sending in pharmacy related things. Like last time I did it, someone put like pills on the ground, pills I found on the ground. And I did like 2 minutes on pills on the ground. And so it's like when we need it, like I can pull that pharmacy stuff in. And I think the fun part of improv comedy or any comedy is when you can draw from a place of reality, draw from a place of truth. And quite honestly, this sounds very smug, but like be smart with your comedy, play to the top of your intelligence. And fortunately, my education has, I don't know how intelligent some people might think I am, but I have a PharmD, I have a couple board certifications. So objectively, I have some training that allows me to, if not directly talk about like an ACE inhibitor in an act, which very few people are going to get. I'm trained to look at details. And I think comedy, great comedy, you think of like a Seinfeld episode where you start with something and the very end of the episode, they bring that little detail back. And I think that's that pharmacy brain that allows me to see the weird little details that some people might miss. And then that comedy brain flips it on its side or its head or however you want to see it to highlight that absurd like comedic world that we live in.
I think there's something to intelligence in comedy too, because some of my favorite comedians, even though I don't agree with them from maybe their content or their political views, I'm just showing up to laugh.
Sure.
Like Jon Stewart, for example.
Oh yeah, brilliant.
He is so intelligent that he can map out an entire tie-in to multiple things happening throughout the episode. And it makes it more funny because he remembers things that he might have said 30 minutes ago within the show and tying it into the end of the show, like you said. And there's a timing to everything. I've seen posts by a comedy act that is almost like a course on YouTube, and sure enough, those tie-ins and being able to remember that and tie in those real world experiences. And in this case, being a dad, oh my goodness, I don't know how many dads we have out of 7.5 billion people that are out there. I would think at least half have the potential of being a dad per se, and it's mind blowing to think of the stress that's put on us right now as men, as general leaders, as people that have to bring in a paycheck every month to support a family of some sort. Even if you're just a dog dad, you're still a dad, and there's lots of comedy that could be brought into that. So open up a little bit about this book and share with some of our listeners right now some of the things that they can look forward to reading.
Well, you're going to hear a lot of my mess ups. That was the feedback. My brother-in-law is a musician and has a studio, so he helped me with the audiobook. And so there's a Kindle, we got the paperback here, and it's out. My website needs updating. This came out on Mother's Day actually, so it's available for purchase right now. But the audiobook, he's like, this is a good book, Cory, but you sure like make fun of yourself a lot. I said, well, if I was reading a dad book by someone who said they have all the answers, I know they're lying. And so I think this is just the truth. It's like we learn from our mistakes, and being a dad provides ample opportunities to have mistakes. And I think if you're honest with your kids and say, I'm sorry, I messed up, I shouldn't have done that, and then you actually improve yourself, then that's really all you can ask. But you're going to hear about, I think, a lot of situations where I put my foot in my mouth, where I had certain expectations. I think being a new dad is all about expectation management. Like there's this world of, especially pharmacists out there, we're type A, we're people who get things done. Before kids, I'd have this to-do list. I'd just check it off. I'd have these goals, I'd reach them. And then you have a kid and you're like, wow, I get like one thing to do a day and that's it. So and that's really hard to stomach. And I think if you go into this with the understanding that is your new reality, it makes life a lot less stressful because this is what is instead of fighting what is.
That's great though. The book is called I Guess I'm a Dad Now. Look it up. I guess I'm a dad now. Or go to CoryJenks.com. That's CoryJenks.com. If you're listening, if you're driving in your car, you're jogging, you can't write that down, don't worry. You'll find it on social media. We'll be sharing this on social media throughout. Speaking of social media, what's your favorite social media platform right now, Cory?
My favorite one is called the Freedom app, and it blocks all social media. It's, like, gosh, it's hard to say. I like LinkedIn, honestly, because I think there's a level of professionalism there that kind of keeps some of the wildness of social media out.
Right.
Instagram is one that I tried a lot as in the promotion of this book, and I think I'll go back to it. My goal is to start making some comedy videos. Nothing. I mean, there'll be some pharmacy relation, but I think of jokes every day. I should just start writing them. I like X a lot because you can, as a writer, it provides an opportunity to create these threads and write.
Yep.
But with all of these, it's like a chainsaw. It can be a tool or it could cut your leg off. And I have found, as we record this in July, I took a pretty decent break, like basically after Father's Day. That was the sort of like big month promotion from Mother's Day to Father's Day of this book. And we're still promoting it. You should still go buy it. It's a great book.
Yeah.
But I just needed a break from trying to think of content every day to put on social media. I needed to like shut my mind off and let ideas come into my brain. So I would say that I think X is my favorite. Facebook is my least favorite, probably because it's become just like, I don't know. Everyone's like, it used to be a college thing and now it's everyone, and it's just ads. So that's a big Cory Jenks editorial. Like, Cory likes X, then Instagram, but also LinkedIn's pretty cool too.
So those are you've just mentioned my three favorite. LinkedIn, for some reason, has sustained the professionalism, like you said. I've seen posts get put out that get shamed and then get taken down because of the shame of being like, this is not the place for this. And it's funny that the community has kind of like helped to keep things in order. So that is definitely the number one. But from a fun part, I really have started enjoying Instagram. And all the pharmacists that are there, we did kind of an analysis. 60% of our pharmacists are now all female. 62% of my followers on Instagram are women. And it's amazing to see that our profession is being led by women. And I'm like, listen, if I'm going to cater to my audience, which is extremely personal to me, I'm going to make sure that I understand my audience. And even being a comedian, you probably have to pay attention to who is your audience. So it's just interesting to see that there is science in social media platforms from algorithm perspectives and how to use it and how to maximize it. It's really interesting.
Oh yeah, my kids got really into volcanoes for a while, so my YouTube algorithm is all about like Mount St. Helens now, which is, I mean, there's worse. I guess there's worse time sucks to get into, but yeah, I think the acknowledgement of your audience is key. Like, this book started as a parenting book, and I realized like I'm not a mom, never been a mom, never will be a mom, but I know what it's like to be a dad, and so I really wanted to cater to dads, find that niche, because there is something about building an audience of people who relate to you. And I think that I've had some mom friends read this book and they're like, this is a really good book. There's recipes in there. So I did your pulled pork recipe and my kids loved it. And I love hearing that. Like, there are general parenting lessons that will be in here, but it's written for dads, and it's written for newish dads. But I had someone read this who's got kids from 5 to 19. And he said, I thought there's no way you're going to teach me anything about parenting. I have 5 kids. One of them's a teenager. And he's like, and I'll say this to my own harm, he's like, this is the best parenting book I've ever read. I was like, that was very kind of you. So
That's awesome.
Like, the goal is to make it fun and easy to read. And it's a handbook. So, I mean, you could flip to any page here and you're going to find something that's useful for you. So like, I just flipped to a page about kids' books and how terrible they are. And basically took Curious George to task. So if you love Curious George, you're going to hate my book. But if you're tired of bubblegum that are making our kids weak and poorly behaved, and don't get me started on Pete the Cat, then you're going to love this book. And if you are a lawyer for Curious George, please don't sue me. I don't think enough people have read this to want to sue me. So no, I think there's like, underneath it all, like the beginning of this book, I start with some pretty dire statistics about the truth of when you have dads that are not present or they're bad, like society essentially crumbles. And so no pressure, dads, but if we don't do our jobs, we break down as a society. But
True.
then I think I bring in, hey, here's the good news. In societies where dads are more present, you see better outcomes for your school, your career, your mental health. And so a lot's riding on our shoulders, and you could make that really heavy, and it is. But I kind of have to laugh at the absurdity of like dads portrayed in the media are actually kind of doofuses. Like
Yep.
like there's Homer Simpson, Peter Griffin. Every commercial for like Chili's or Applebee's is like, mom's working and dad has to make dinner. How do I do it? I better order from the app. Like,
Yeah.
it's not. And then you look at mannequins of dads in stores, and we have dad bod mannequins now. Like the bar has never been lower to be a decent dad, which is good, and it's also sad. But let's raise that bar a little bit, and make society better. And as you read about how to do it, laugh a little bit at yourself and how crazy it can be to try to do that.
Absolutely. We love it. The name of the book is I Guess I'm a Dad Now by Cory Jenks. Check it out at CoryJenks.com. Promise me, Cory, you're coming back to This Week in Pharmacy sooner than 2025.
You want me back sooner? You bring me back. Let's do a poll of the audience and say what do you want Cory to yap about, and I will come and yap about it, because I'm a dad, I'm a comedian, I'm a practicing ambulatory care pharmacist that works with diabetes and obesity. So I got thoughts on GLP-1s. I got thoughts on PBMs. I got lots of thoughts, and we only have so much time on each week in This Week in Pharmacy. So I'd be happy to enrage and enlighten and probably enrage your audience with my thoughts on these.
Well, we love it. We're big fans, so we want to support you. Be looking out for links to getting in touch with Cory on his LinkedIn, as well as CoryJenks.com. Cory, thanks so much for being on This Week in Pharmacy.
It's always fun. Till next time.